Welcome to another episode of Talk Smart with
PUGH
and McCART. I'm Andrew McCART. That's Joe PUGH. Episode 21. Joe,
Yes.
21 times we've done this, and I'm enjoying every second of it.
Yeah, certainly when we've got a lot to talk about, and there is a fair amount to talk about today. There's been two shows over the past weekend, a Friday and Saturday. Luckily enough to have been one each apiece, so we can tell you firsthand all the action that went down. I was in Brighton, you was in Newcastle. Where do you want to start, mate?
I want to start in Brighton just now because you had a fun time down in Brighton with Chris Eubanks Sr. Now, boxing is all about personalities, and boxing needs big personalities. And could you get a bigger personality in boxing than Chris Eubanks Sr.? I don't think so. And I think boxing needs him, and he's good for boxing. So, yeah. How was it with, first of all, Harlem Eubank, that fight week with Wasserman, and having Senior there?
Yeah, we'll talk about Senior in a minute, but we'll just start off with Harlem and his fight against Timo Schwarzkopf. Timo, a really credible opponent, and went the distance for Jack Catterall, been in there with some really, really tough 140 fighters. And Harlem put on probably his best performance to date of his career. It was no secret that he was struggling with the weight, and that's why it's already been declared. It was declared kind of 12 days before the actual fight that it would be his last fight at 140. But that being said, it was a great performance. It had a little bit of everything, that fight. His ups and downs, he was starting to kind of lose it a bit towards the middle rounds, and then he knocked him out in the end. Really, really good performance from Harlem Eubank. And after all the spiel that Chris was doing prior to the fight, after the fight, he needed to put a performance in like that to kind of back it up. And I'm pleased for Harlem because he's a great, great guy. And yeah, talk about Chris. So I've had the opportunity to interview Chris and Harlem together 3 times now in the past 12 days, and every time they just deliver. Yeah, absolutely madness. What did you make of it from your end? Because I know you saw Conor and Eddie, and a lot of stuff there was pointed towards them in the interviews I've done with them.
Well, I think Conor and Eddie shared the same sentiment as me, that it's good to see Senior back in boxing. It's good to have him back, and good to see him in front of the camera and doing what he does. And yeah, they shared that same sentiment as me. But when I watched the interview that you did with them, you know what? I said to you, I thought Chris was funny. I think the way he comes across, I don't like, sometimes I still don't know if Chris has been 100% serious the way he comes across, but yeah, his personality, I don't know if he goes home at night and it's a different character, or this is just an act that he's fooled the country with for the past 30, 40 years, but that is the Chris Eubank Sr. that we've come to love. And the way he was talking about Conor Benn, that he's disgraced the family name if he goes up to fight his son Junior at 160 because he needs to get his license. I can see where he's coming from, but then he's wanting to fight Harlem Eubank. I don't see where that fight makes sense right now for Harlem Eubank. Obviously, if Harlem comes up to 147, he's got that Eubank name, but Conor said to me, this isn't about cousins, nephews, or uncles. The reason why me and Chris Eubank Jr. is a massive fight is because we are our father's sons. Our fathers had 2 fights together, right? 2 wars together. And now their sons are fighting. That's what the story is. It's not with Harlem Eubank. He might have that Eubank name, but there's no storyline there. And I think I like Harlem. I've met Harlem. I've been to loads of his fights. He's a great guy, great fighter. And if he moves up to 147, I'm excited because he is a perfectionist. He enjoys boxing, and you know how he does that stance, because I think he likes to. Like, it's an art form, he calls it, and he studies the art form of boxing, and you can see that in his performances, the way he fights. But again, boxing's boxing. It's a crazy old world, man. And we're saying right now it doesn't make sense for Harlem Eubank to fight Conor Benn, but we don't know what's going to happen in 12 months.
We really don't. And what Conor said about it's not about uncles, nephews, and everything about that, I think it's at a stage now where Eubank Jr. versus Conor Benn isn't even really about the family name. It comes into it, certainly, but where everything has happened around this fight, it was meant to happen nearly 18 months ago. By the time that they do fight, what we're looking like in February, early February, Tottenham, which I'm sure we'll speak about, I think it's become bigger than just the Ben Eubank name. I think this has got a real story behind it, and it's got a lot of kind of bad blood between the two of them, because I'm sure they'll both agree that when it first got announced, there weren't no real bad blood. They would have solved the fight. But now, with everything that's happened in this past year, this is really, really going to be a nail-biter. This is really, really going to be a fight where there's a lot of bad blood there, and it's real bad blood. And I'm sure we'll see that when we do get the press conference, we get the announcements. But that's not to say that Harlem can't go to 147 pounds and start really making a name for himself. And you never know. You said, who knows what could happen in 12 months of boxing? We could be sitting here, maybe a Ben Eubank, then another Ben Eubank, then another Ben Eubank, and it don't even know which Eubank. That is the crazy thing and the crazy world we're looking at. I asked Nissa Sowland, if not Conor Benn, who would you like for him to fight? He saying the likes of Lewis Ritson. He thinks he's moving up to 147 pounds. Robbie Davis Jr. So big domestic names. That's what Harlem Eubank wants next, whether that be Conor Benn or else.
Well, I spoke to Tony Simmons, Eddie Hearn, and Conor himself, and they seem to be, you can almost see when you do interviews with somebody, Joe, you can almost sense off them that it's close or something's been signed and we're going to get announcements soon. And that's what I got from Tony and Eddie and Conor, that, listen, just bide your time, it's going to happen. And December 3rd, Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, we saw that Eddie was at the Chelsea-Tottenham game the other week there, and he put up a cryptic message on his Instagram saying, great game, love the stadium, we'll see you soon. Do you know what I mean? And being the conspiracy theorist that I am, I was putting two and two to come together and coming up with 5, and I think that's what he was alluding to. So I think it's going to be February 3rd. Ben Eubank, or Eubank Ben, however the contract's written. I don't know which name's first this time round. I think it's going to happen. And listen, for me, I'm 41 years old, so I was a kid. I was like a 10, 12-year-old, 10, 11, 12-year-old watching Eubank Senior and Nigel Benn fighting each other with my dad in the living room. I think it was ITV Box Office back in the day, or ITV back in the day, that had the rights for it. So for me, it's kind of like a little nostalgia type feeling to watch their sons fight. And even I hope that Senior's in the corner or there or thereabouts involved in the fight in some way with son Junior. Yeah. But for me, it's going to be like a nostalgic feeling, because I watched them as a kid, their dads fight, and now their sons fighting, and now I get the opportunity to maybe, well, I've interviewed both of them before in the past, but who knows, I could be at their fight, ringside, watching their fight 28, 27, 28 years later. I'm at the ringside for their son's fight, which is just an absolutely surreal moment for me personally. But like I said, it's going to be a nostalgic feeling, and what I'm looking forward to. Obviously, we've spoken about on numerous occasions about Conor Benn needing to get his license back and clear his name and all this sort of stuff, and he probably still needs to do that in a sense. But this fight in itself is absolutely huge. It's a massive fight, way bigger than what it was the first time round. Because, like you said, there might have been a little bit of manufactured bad blood there, but now there's bad blood. Now these two don't like each other. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, certainly. And obviously, I don't really like talking about with the license thing at the moment, because we just don't know how that's going to play out. But it's all looking like all roads are leading towards that February 3rd date at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. We've seen boxing there in the past twice now with AJ and Tyson Fury. And yeah, hopefully we'll see it again. But you was in Newcastle, the very, very north to me and very, very south to you, even still. But yeah, how was it, mate? Because it was a tough night for some really, really exciting prospects, wasn't it?
Yeah, definitely. But I'll touch on this. There's a match from the fight day 5K, and Eddie Hearn beat me on time this time round. I've got a bad ankle, so I done it in 25 minutes, and he done it in 22 and a half minutes. And that'll be the first and last time Eddie Hearn ever beats me on a 5K. That's a fact. But going to the fight himself, Eddie said to me as well in Liverpool 3 weeks ago that he wants to see his young guns show him something, and where that is inside the ring and outside of the ring, show him a personality, show the fans your personality. And I think we got that with the likes of Mark Dickinson and Ishmael Davis, and these young guys coming through. Even a little bit of maybe a little bit more of Shabazz as well, because Shabazz was doing a little bit. He was showing a little bit more of his personality, and I think we got a little bit of spice and Nido, and that really, really made the fight night exciting because there was a lot of bad blood and a lot of heated arguments and back and forth between 3 or 4 of the fights on the card. So when it came to fight night, listen, the fights were all good. We had Owen Reese at the start and a great fight, got the stoppage in the 3rd round, I believe, 3rd out of 4 or 5 out of 6, can't remember. It was the 2nd to last round anyway. Then we had his brother, Ben Reese, who's a very, very talented prospect. He got dropped with an overhand right, bounced back up and ended up stopping his opponent. And he was distraught after the fight, just due to the fact that because he was annoyed with himself that he got clipped and he got dropped by a guy he should be beaten quite easily. So he was quite upset about that. And then we had Jimmy Sains. I'm pretty sure you might know Jimmy Sains from being down that way.
Yes, mate.
He's an exciting young prospect coming through, especially in that Tony Sims gym. I mean, he's got a lot to bounce off, a lot of fighters to bounce off in Conor Benn, John Ryder, Joe Cordina, Craig Richards. I probably missed a couple out, but that's not a bad little gym to be learning your trade in. Then we went on the main card. We had Ishmael Davis stopping Ewan McKenzie. Ewan McKenzie's got the biggest set of nuts I've ever seen in my life because he was fighting back, even though he was getting hit hard here and there. He was fighting back. The towel came in the 9th round, I believe. So Ishmael got the win, and it was just that was the story all the way through. It was just back and forth, and quite a lot of the fights were a back and forth with Callum French and Jeff Ofori. Jeff Ofori beat Callum French, who's one of the exciting prospects coming through. We had Mark Dickinson, Boo Boo Dickinson, who stopped Grant Dennis, who doesn't really get stopped. He went the distance with Kevin Ajago in Dublin. And in the main event was Shabazz Masood, young Cameron Vong as well, who showed a mature performance. And in the main event itself, I'm doing like an Eddie Hearn here. I feel like I'm Eddie Hearn, spitting off all these names in these fights. A below par performance from Shabazz Masood in his own words. And I'll probably agree with them because it was a close fight. It was a tight-knit fight. Ben Davison said it. Eddie Hearn said it. Shabazz said it himself that it was below par. No excuses. It was just wasn't his night. He got the win, which was a split decision. And he could have made excuses, though, Joe. Shabazz could have made. He had COVID 3 weeks ago. Do you know what I mean? It was he had to weigh in for the second time because he had made weight 3 weeks prior. He had to go back, do it all again, make weight again. So after coming back from COVID 3 weeks later, so there was excuses there to be made, but the young man didn't make any excuses, which was refreshing to see. But yeah, fun card to be involved. I like these next gen. I like these when the young guns go at it, and I think we've got a good few stars on the rise. But that being said, Joe, the main talking point with Eddie Hearn post-fight was this Saudi Arabia fight card on December 23rd because Frank Warren said he's going to be involved in it. Eddie Hearn said, well, he's not said, but he's in talks with Saudi Arabia to be involved with a couple of matchroom fighters on it. So, I mean, that'll be the first time that Eddie and Frank are doing the show together, so that'll be interesting in itself. But yeah, what do you think of this rumoured card out in Saudi Arabia, December 23?
I think it'll be the first time they'll actually be in a room together, let alone do a card together.
Exactly.
So it could be very, very interested, and that could be entertainment in itself in the build-up to see how that plays out. But yeah, heard whispers that there would still be a Saudi Arabia show on the 23rd of December because I think they'd put plans in to already kind of put the stadium in place and put the infrastructures that they do for this Riyadh season. And coming off the back of Fury and Ngannou, when we knew we weren't going to see Fury Usyk on that date, I know Ngannou was being spoken about still fighting, maybe fighting someone like, I heard maybe Joseph Parker or Zhang or someone like that. And that kind of didn't come to fruition because I think on about Wednesday or Thursday, Francis Ngannou said, no, I'm fully focused on a Tyson Fury rematch next. So then you're kind of looking round and we know that their excitement in heavyweights over in Saudi Arabia, and you're looking around and you're looking at your Anthony Joshua's, your Deontay Wilder's, your biggest boys, and then it gets kind of leaked that there's talks of Anthony Joshua and Otto Wallin maybe in the mix, Deontay Wilder, Joseph Parker, Dimitri Bivol, and then today I'm seeing that Jai Opetaia could be on this card. So this could be an all-star card. Like, don't get me wrong, we had a heavyweight extravaganza with the Fury and Ngannou, but this is like world champions. These are Jai Opetaia, Ring Magazine, a cruiserweight champion. You've got Dimitri Bivol, who's very, very highly regarded in the pound for pound list, let alone the light heavyweight list. So, you know, that sprinkled with heavyweight magic in Deontay Wilder and Anthony Joshua, albeit separate fights, could be an absolute card for the ages.
Yeah, I agree. And the thing that excites me is, like, I'm a massive fan of Dimitri Bivol. The fact that he's on the card, and I think he's rumored to be. A lot of talk was it was going to be Richard Rivera, who's very, very tough. I think he's only been stopped, or not even stopped. I think he only had one loss, and that was against I can't remember, a good opponent. Anyway, I'll need to go double check on Boxrec to find out. But we were looking up Richard Rivera, and that's a very, very good opponent for Dimitri Bivol. He's an absolute. I love the way he fights. As a boxing purist and a boxing fan, I just love the way he approaches the game and how he approaches the fight inside the ring as well. But what else is exciting me other than Dimitri Bivol being on the card is the fact that we're going to have Deontay Wilder and Anthony Joshua in the same room together, in the same area together, because we see what it was like with Ngannou and Fury. It was hard to avoid anyone. Everybody was just there. You could be walking down the hallway or down that bit there to a different interview and you'll bump into somebody. And I think as soon as Joshua and Wilder bump into each other, I don't think it will be a push and a shove and argy-bargy type conversation. I think it will be a... No. I think it'll just be two top dogs at the top of the game, just mean, listen, let's just get it on. And I think that's going to add a little bit of spice to that fight, because outside of Joshua and Tyson Fury, which is probably the biggest fight in boxing to be made right now, I think so. I think Canelo Benavidez, I don't think that's as big as what Joshua and Tyson Fury will be, or even the rematch with Crawford and Spence. I think that right now in boxing, Tyson Fury and Joshua is the biggest fight. But the most exciting fight in boxing right now, I believe, is Joshua and Wilder. I think that's a 4 or 5 round fight. That isn't going the distance. It's one of them ones where whoever lands first wins the fight. That's how I see the fight. I might be wrong. Like I said, I'm nine times out of 10, I'm wrong. But I just think that having them two in the same vicinity and the same weigh-in, at the same weigh-in together and the same this, that, and the next thing, you know what it's like. We've seen what the content was like out in Saudi Arabia for Fury and Ngannou. Them two are going to bump heads at some stage. I don't mean like bump heads are going to be pushing and swearing and shoving each other, but there's going to be a heated discussion between the two of them, because I think both of them want the fight. It's always that contract and crossing the T's and dotting the I's that frustrate fighters. So I'm excited about that. Very, very excited to see when them two come face to face for the first time. I don't know if they've came face to face before, but if they two come face to face out in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, and as you say, there's not going to be no malice there at all. It's just going to be two guys like kind of, there'll be a handshake and say, look, let's get it on, because they do both want it now. They both really, really want it. It's the biggest crossroads of all crossroads fights I think you'll ever see, because the winner goes straight into the likes of your Furies, the likes of your Usyks. I know, obviously, Wilder's fought Fury and AJ's fought Usyk, but it just puts you straight back up there as one of those kings as the heavyweight division. And it does put the loser in quite an awkward situation moving forward. But, yeah, this card could be something really, really special. And if it is a collection of all these world champions like Dimitri Bivol, like Jarbatai, and I'm sure there'll be more, then, yeah, you would have never seen a card like it.
No. Well, the rumored fights are, like, we can speculate and say, like, a Joshua Wallin, a Parker Wilder, a Dubois Chisora, because I think Chisora might be on the card as well. I heard as well. Then you've got Jaya Patai, and then you've got Bivol, like you said. So again, it looks like it's going to be. Again, we're just guessing here. It's all guesswork because nothing's been cemented in stone yet. So, yeah, it's just all guesswork now. But we can dream. We can sit here and talk about it and say, "Oh, this is the fights we're looking forward to." But again, I've definitely been in boxing long enough, but you've probably been in boxing long enough now, Joe, to realize that until they're in the ring, nothing's set in stone. Do you know what I mean? So we just need to sit back, wait and see. Because like I said, December 23 is 5 weeks away on Saturday coming.
I know. It's coming very, very quick and very, very fast. So we will need announcements. But what I will say, because we have been set up for disappointment many times in the past, Andy, like you said, we've been in long enough to know. But usually the Saudis are the ones to make it happen. And the Saudis do, when they say they're going to do something, 9 times out of 10, it has come off. So that's why my ears are pricking up and I'm thinking, well, we could have a big, big fight night 2 days before Christmas.
And the good thing as well, Joe, is 5 weeks out, if you're training as a heavyweight, if you're training as a heavyweight, and you're 5 weeks out, you can probably still fight because there's no weight cut for you guys. Do you know what I mean? If you're a lightweight, welterweight, super middleweight, featherweight, all them other weights classes, you're having to make weight. Do you know what I mean? You're trying to do a little cut. These big guys don't need to cut. Do you know what I mean? So that's probably one of the benefits of being a heavyweight. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, so I'm looking forward to that. And listen, I think that as soon as that December 23 card is announced, if and when it is announced, it's going to be exciting times to have a chat with you and talk about it, because I think the fights on it, if we're going to just guess and see who's on that card and guess who's going to fight each other, it's going to be an exciting card to watch and be involved in. But Joe, like I say, it's coming up to the end of we're in 2 months left of this year, and it's looking good. We've got the Ben Eubank announcement to be made. I think that will be made shortly within the next couple of weeks. December 23. We've got a very good card from Frank Warren in Manchester this week with the Magnificent Seven, he's calling it, but Nick Ball and Liam Davis, Eko Usman, Solomon Dakers, Nathaniel Collins, my countryman. Got a good card there. And then obviously, I think Eddie Hearn's out in LA for Diego Pacheco, who he says is the next star in the super middleweight division. So next Sunday, Joe, this Sunday coming even, it's going to be more to talk about and a lot more to talk about.
Yeah, there certainly is. Great card put on by Frank Warren on Saturday night. Check it out. Nick Ball versus Isaac Dogbo is going to be an absolute banger. You've also got Adam Azim out in Wolverhampton.
That's right.
And you can't forget to mention there's a little sprinkle of misfits in there somewhere. Yeah, but it's an action-packed weekend of boxing at whatever level. Well, I do mean whatever level, with misfits all the way through to LA with Diego Pacheco and the next stars of pound-for-pound boxing, if we're being led to believe what Eddie Hearn's saying. But yeah, look forward to seeing you next Sunday, and we'll get straight into it, mate.
Joe, where can they find us, buddy?
Mate, they can find us on every single major streaming platform, your Spotify's, your iTunes, your Amazons, and then we go onto the YouTube, we go to the Facebook, the Instagram, the TikTok, the Twitters. You know where to find us. IFL TV, Talk Smart with PUGH McCART, every week. Grace in your ears, hopefully.
Well done, Joe. Peace, brother.
Peace out.
Sunday.
See you later, mate.